It starts with one word: dendroid. You may not know the term, but Kansas City is about to get one in the form of a massive stainless steel sculpture for the lawn at the Nelson-Atkins Museum of Art.
Well, the man behind Ferment, as it's called, is Roxy Paine, and his stunning tree-like creations have been installed in gardens and galleries around the world. In January, Randy and Don, the camera guy Mayberger, visited Roxy and his crew at their snowy upstate New York studio, hard at work on several pieces, including Neuron and Ferment.
Every part of the process of making these is difficult, so one has to get just used to the difficulty in every stage. You don't know how the weight is gonna... What's the strain on this? Are they joined over there? No, not yet. It's an odd mixture of instinct and logic. Yeah, it's constant collision or mixture of those two. Actually, dendroids is what I call them, because to call them trees is selling it short. For me, they bring so many other sources and other fields of reference. The neural networks, branching river systems. Trees are only one type of branching system.
He's very interested in nature, but of course he's also interested in culture and technology and the way in which those two interact and are intertwined, really, because you can't really separate culture from nature anymore. Our technology is always impacting nature, and nature is always impacting us.
He's taciturn. He kind of reminds me of a Western hero. You know, he's kind of lanky, he's got a kind of cowboy look to him, and nothing could be further from the truth. He's not loquacious. He's somebody who condenses thoughts into few sentences and puts as much space between those sentences as seems to be humanly possible.
Martin Friedman has been a fan of Roxy Paine's work for more than a decade, since he first saw one of the artist's PMUs, or paint-making units, in action. A machine much like Roxy's SCUMAC, which in essence makes art by bypassing the middleman. For years, Martin served as director of the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis. After retiring, he moved to New York City and began working as a consultant for several museums, including the Nelson-Atkins.
I was brought in mainly to deal with sculpture. I was, in my own view of things, the yard man for the museum. So, in a sense, I had this little space that isn't such a little space that I was responsible for.
To honor Martin's 20 years of service, the Hall Family Foundation offered him a going-away gift he couldn't resist. Pick one final piece for the park to be commissioned, and they'd pick up the tab. Martin wasted little time in choosing a work by Roxy Paine.
I thought, we need a tree. He made a number of drawings, and I saw one that I really thought made a great deal of sense. It was enormous.
Well, right now you're standing on the cover of the actual foundation for the Roxy Paine Ferment, and below this, about a foot below, is a 48-inch diameter ring with 16 stainless steel threaded rods protruding through the surface. It's all tied together. That will actually support the sculpture. Outside of this footprint is roughly about 9 yards of concrete, maybe 2,000 pounds of rebar.
With preparations like this, it's very clear that something sizable is on its way. At 18,000 pounds and 56 feet tall, that's twice the height of this pole, Ferment is, in the words of its maker, a behemoth, requiring just the right spot in the park's 22 acres to best strut its sculptural stuff.
We just talked about the different quadrants of the sculpture park, the relationships that his sculpture might have to other sculptures, and then the relationship that his piece might have to the natural elements in the park, and then the building elements in the park.
Typically with Roxy's dendroids, he likes a site that is kind of isolated and elevated if possible, and that is backed by trees. And so in this case, he found the perfect site. It took some wandering around, but he found the perfect site for it.
It will, various places, be seen against that very dark area. It will also be seen, I think, for miles all around. It'll be a great neighbor, and a surprising neighbor to the real dendroids.
Fermentation is about process with carbohydrates or sugars that are being transformed into alcohol by another element, yeast or bacteria. But for me, fermentation has always been a metaphor for mental processes. I mean, I really was trying to create this churning, swirling, very dynamic, it's this force, almost uncontrolled, but then, it's frozen in this material that's, extremely stable, extremely hard.
He has these brilliant ideas that, all these sculptures sort of embody. And with each sculpture, they just get more and more developed. And the physical challenges kind of are amplified. This works like Neuron, distillation that we had at the gallery recently, Ferment. I mean, they're just on this whole other plane. So, it's just been a real treat to see that evolve. I feel like every time there's an installation, it's like this incredible feat. It's so intense physically.
In about 6 weeks, that feat will be performed here. The same crew that helps Roxy build the sculptures also rolls out to do the installations. And as they've proven numerous times, weather will not deter them.
In D.C., when we did Graft, it rained 2 days on us, and we still got it up.
What are the challenges with Ferment?
Gnarly piece.
That is going to be theater. That's going to be outdoor public theater.
It's going to be one of the most complex installations that Roxy's ever done, I think.
It's going to come in on 4 flatbed trucks. It's going to be assembled piece by piece. There will be cherry pickers, and I'm not sure what all kind of rigging is involved, but it's going to be an incredible event to watch happen.
The museum hopes you'll check in on the progress, either in person or via a special webcam they'll have trained on the site. 5 days is all the time that's forecast for Ferment to take root, a major statement in stainless steel, which, like all Roxy's works, asks us to re-examine our views about the relationship between nature and our industrial world.
If the pieces can instigate thought and instigate reflection, that's part of my goal. The joy is in, seeing something that exists only as an idea become physical reality. It's very fitting that it's also in honor of Martin, has kind of devoted his life to bringing ideas into the public eye. I think fermentation is a fitting metaphor for his life's work as well.
And you know, it won't be long before Ferment is on those trucks and headed this way.
That's right.
To take place at the Nelson-Atkins Museum in the Sculpture Park. Pretty amazing, and we're going to be covering that on the local show as well. I'm joined here, in fact, by Kathleen Layton from the Nelson-Atkins Museum. You're the, what do we call you, the communications officer?
Officer, yes. Ooh. So please, yes, speak to me with respect.
Well, I do, because I want to thank you for all you've been able to do to help us be able to present this on the local show.
Oh, and I want to thank you for all you do. That was a beautiful piece about an artist that a lot of people don't know about. And on a show like this, the local show, you are so fortunate to be able to have the time to really bring those stories to life for your audience.
It is really a great opportunity. Thanking you, thanking the Hall Family Foundation. Sheila Griffin took some of those fabulous photos from Graft being installed on the mall there in Washington, D.C. And Philip Dolan with the great video of the distillation sculpture. I mean, Roxy Paine, like you say, an artist that I think people are going to be hearing more and more about. It's very exciting to be able to share that with you on the local show, cover the arts in so many different ways, and use our community partners and our assets like the Nelson-Atkins Museum. Pretty exciting for us.
It is, and I think that one of the things that Roxy Paine said was he likes to instigate thought. He wants people to think, and that's really very much what the local show is all about and what the Nelson-Atkins Museum is all about. So there's all sorts of synergy going on here.
Synergy, and that's where you come into the picture. You knew we were going to get around to that in a second here, didn't you? Because we're here in the studios. It's a special edition of the local show. Nick Haynes will be in another corner here in just a second to tell you more about what we're up to. But the number on the screen, 1-888-203-1747, puts you in touch with the volunteers here who want to take your call and get you on as a member of KCPT. And as you said, Kathleen, this is a place where shows exist because people care enough to help us make them possible.